echoes of a shattered heart. In the bustling city of Eldridge, where skyscrapers pierced the sky like indifferent sentinels, lived Elena, a 28-year-old graphic designer with a heart as open as the canvases she painted. She had always believed in love as a force of nature, wild, unpredictable, and capable of transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. Her friends often teased her for her romantic idealism, but Elena wore it like a badge of honor. "Love isn't about caution," she'd say with a laugh. "It's about leaping." It was at a local art gallery opening where she met Marcus. He was tall, with tousled dark hair and eyes that seemed to hold the depth of oceans. As an up-and-coming photographer, he spoke passionately about capturing raw emotions in his work. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, from the strokes of Van Gogh to the fleeting beauty of street life. By the end of the night, Marcus had asked for her number, and Elena felt a spark ignite within her, a flame she hadn't felt since her college days. From that moment, Elena loved blindly. She ignored the subtle warnings her intuition whispered. Marcus was charming, yes, but his stories often shifted like sand. One evening, he'd mention a trip to Paris with an ex. The next, he'd claim he'd never been in a serious relationship. Elena brushed it off as artistic eccentricity. "He's complex," she told her best friend Sarah over coffee. "That's what draws me to him." Their romance blossomed quickly. Weekend getaways to the countryside, where they'd picnic under ancient oaks and share dreams. Marcus photographed her in golden hour light, calling her his muse. Elena poured her soul into the relationship, redesigning her schedule around his unpredictable shoots, even taking on freelance gigs to fund surprise gifts for him. She cooked his favorite meals, listened to his rants about the cutthroat art world, and supported his ambitions without question. In her eyes, love meant surrender, and she surrendered fully. But cracks began to appear, faint at first, like hairline fractures in glass. Marcus would disappear for days, citing inspiration hunts in remote areas with spotty signal. When he returned, he'd be distant, his affection laced with excuses. Elena noticed the late-night texts he hid from her view, the way his phone buzzed incessantly during their intimate moments. "Work," he'd say with a disarming smile. And Elena, blinded by her devotion, believed him. Or rather, she chose to believe, because the alternative was too painful to confront. One rainy autumn evening, the illusion shattered. Elena had planned a surprise dinner at his loft to celebrate his latest exhibition. She arrived early, letting herself in with the key he'd given her, a symbol of trust, she thought. The place was dimly lit, jazz music playing softly. As she set the table, she heard voices from the bedroom. Laughter, intimate and familiar. Pushing the door open, Elena's world tilted. There was Marcus, entangled in sheets with a woman she recognized from his social media, a model he'd collaborated with. The woman's eyes widened in shock, but Marcus's face hardened into a mask of indifference. "Elena, what are you doing here?" The words escaped her lips in a whisper. "I loved you." But even as she said it, the truth crashed over her like a tidal wave. It wasn't love. It was a fantasy she'd built around a man who never truly reciprocated. She fled into the storm, tears mingling with rain on her cheeks. Back in her apartment, Elena collapsed onto the floor, sobs racking her body. The pain was visceral, a sharp ache in her chest that made breathing a chore. Nights blurred into days as she replayed every moment in her mind. How had she missed the signs? The cancelled plans, the vague explanations, the way he'd never introduced her to his family or friends. She had given everything, her time, her energy, her heart, and received scraps in return. Emotional suffering enveloped her like a shroud. Sleep evaded her, replaced by nightmares where Marcus's face morphed into mocking shadows. Food lost its taste. Her once vibrant designs turned monochromatic and lifeless. Sarah visited daily, forcing her to eat, to shower, but Elena felt hollow, a shell of the woman who'd leaped into love so eagerly. "Why does it hurt so much?" she cried one night, clutching a pillow stained with mascara. "Because you loved with your whole self," Sarah replied gently. And he didn't deserve it. In the depths of her despair, reflection began to seep in. Elena journaled furiously, pages filled with raw confessions. She dissected the relationship, realizing how she'd ignored red flags for the sake of harmony. Marcus had never asked about her dreams, never supported her through her own creative slumps. It was always about him, his art, his needs. She had misplaced her love, pouring it into someone who viewed her as a convenience, not a partner. As weeks turned to months, Elena sought solace in therapy. Her counselor, Dr. Hale, encouraged her to explore the roots of her blind devotion. Love isn't about losing yourself, Dr. Hale said. It's about two people growing together. Elena traced it back to her childhood, watching her mother endure a loveless marriage for the sake of stability. Subconsciously, she'd vowed to love fiercely, unconditionally, but in doing so, she'd forgotten self-respect. Reflection brought clarity, but also anger. At Marcus, yes, but more at herself. "I paid the price for my blindness," she wrote in her journal. "I let hope eclipse reality." She grieved the loss not just of the relationship, but of the innocent faith she'd once held in love. Slowly, healing emerged. Elena threw herself into her art, creating a series called Fractured Illusions, abstract pieces depicting broken hearts mending with threads of gold. The exhibition was a success, drawing crowds who resonated with her vulnerability. For the first time, she felt seen not as someone's muse, but as an artist in her own right. One crisp spring morning, nearly a year after that fateful night, Elena sat by her window, sipping tea. Marcus had reached out once, a half-hearted apology via text, but she deleted it without reply. She no longer craved closure from him. She had found it within herself. The lesson crystallized. Love should be a mirror, reflecting back the care you give. Blind love is not bravery. It's a gamble with your soul. Elena vowed to approach future relationships with open eyes, valuing mutual respect, honesty, and shared growth. She learned that true love doesn't demand sacrifice of self. It nurtures it. In the end, Elena emerged stronger, her heart scarred but wiser. She walked the streets of Eldridge with a quiet confidence, ready to love again, but this time on her terms. The price she paid had bought her freedom, and for that she was grateful.